The Nebraska football team suffered a tough loss Saturday. Earlier today, the Huskers met with the media at Memorial Stadium. Sports director Adam Kruger and reporter Phil Bergman have a recap from Memorial Stadium.
Hi there again, everybody. I'm Adam Kruger alongside Phil Bergman. And Phil, what we gathered from the Huskers today, a very frustrated Big Red team, feeling like they let one get away Saturday in Boulder with that overtime loss.
They let one get away, but the team made sure to let the fans know that this season is not over for them. It's a loss, but they're going to pick up the pieces and hopefully move on in the right direction. They said it was a wake-up call and something they needed, and now they're going to go back to the practice field, and they have Northern Illinois on Saturday.
Yeah, a lot of the media wanting to discuss specifically what went wrong Saturday in that second half against the Buffaloes, and Scott Frost emphasized it was the start of the third quarter, not coming out crisp on offense, not much energy from the offense on Saturday, and when really Nebraska could have delivered the knockout punch. Scott Frost saying if they could have gone up maybe 24-0, that could have maybe brought down the Buffalo's chances of coming back in that game. So they really felt like the offense could have delivered the knockout blow, but really couldn't get it done in that third quarter, costing the Big Red.
Offense couldn't deliver the knockout blow. Defense couldn't get those crucial stops. They just don't have that killer instinct yet, and that is what's going to take this team to that next level over time, is getting into these situations and staying cool, calm, and collected, and staying composed and taking home the W when you have that halftime lead.
Yeah, so the frustration from the offense in that third quarter, and then in that fourth quarter, the NU defense, Scott Frost kind of admitted that the Blackshirts got maybe a little bit of tired there at the end. Maybe give some credit, he said, maybe to the altitude, but Scott Frost said he's never noticed that there. So, and Mo Berry emphasizing that they could have laid the smackdown and really ended that game against the Buffaloes, but they let him back into it with just a few plays. He said there's no excuses, though. He did also say that everything for Nebraska is out in front of them, and that includes a conference championship. He said if Nebraska wins the Big Ten championship, no one's going to remember this loss to Colorado such early in the season. So technically he's right when he says that the Nebraska's goal is still out in front of them.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the altitude. Last week, Coach Frost said that the altitude would play no effect in the game, and now people are starting to say, hey, it was the altitude, it was the conditioning, and they've been talking about how greatly conditioned they are, so you wonder if they won, if they'd be even considering this. But the team's made it clear that this is a loss, but as you said, it doesn't really affect their Big Ten chances at all. It's just a loss on the schedule. They can move on. They had a great practice on Monday, the players said. That was one of their hardest practices they've had in a while. And they're taking on a Northern Illinois team now that they have a lot of history with over the last 2 years and a lot of bad memories of.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago when Northern Illinois came in here and upset the Huskers. Granted, it was different coaching staffs then, different quarterback, a lot of different players from 2 years ago when Mike Riley was still here. That was basically the beginning of the end for Mike Riley. But there were a handful of players who didn't play in that game, Mo Berry and DiCaprio Bootle, both of them talking about that loss today, and how DiCaprio Bootle even said that Northern Illinois came in here and put our faces in the mud. And Mo Berry even said the practices leading up to that Northern Illinois game 2 years ago were not very serious, not very crisp, and basically that they took Northern Illinois lightly. The way Nebraska's played so far with their Jekyll and Hyde personality, I don't think that'll be the case this week in practice.
It's going to be fascinating to see how they play. Northern Illinois should be historically a cupcake game. They're in the Mid-American Conference. They should not compete with the Huskers. But 2 years ago, they came in and upset the Big Red for perhaps the ugliest loss in a 2-decade period. All the fans still remember it. The loss cost athletic director Sean Eichhorst his job. He was fired later that next week. So I think the Big Red are going to come out with a lot of emotion heading into Saturday's game.
Saturday's game kicks off just after 7 p.m. Saturday right here at Memorial Stadium. For Phil Bergman, I'm Adam Kruger for 3 News Now Sports.